So the big picture for this lesson is levels of factoring of polynomials and also the fundamental theorem of algebra. So let's talk factoring. Let's say I have this type of a polynomial here. Okay, and I want to factor it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply factor by grouping. Even though it's x to the fourth and x squared, I can still do that. So I multiply the coefficient in front of the x to the fourth times the constant term, and that gives me 1 times -2 or -2. And I want the factors of -2 that add to make -1. So that'd be -2 and 1. So it factors like this. Okay, that's the factoring part, and then I can group. X squared comes out of the first two terms. I need to make some more room. Okay, so then a -2 comes out of the last two terms. Notice that what's in the parentheses both times is the same factor, so you can do factor by grouping, and the result is going to be this. Okay, now this is not factored all the way because there's still x squareds here, which means you can factor further. Now this x squared minus 2 can be factored more because basically you can do this. X squared minus 2 equals 0. So then you add 2 to both sides, you get x squared equals 2. Solved by the square root, x equals plus or minus the square root of 2. So then what I can do is I can write the factors out like this. Like that. Okay, so that is x squared minus 2 completely factored. And now let's look at the x squared plus 1. So subtract 1, x squared equals -1. Square root x equals plus or minus square root of -1, or x equals plus or minus I. So then my factors for that one, geez, I should have made more room here. Just rewrite the first part. And then it's going to be x plus I times x minus I. And if you were to multiply these out using the FOIL method, you would get the x squared plus 1. So this is factored completely over the complex numbers. So the fundamental theorem of algebra basically says that if you have a polynomial with a degree greater than 0, you're going to have at least one root in the set of complex numbers. But we know that for polynomials, you're going to have the exact same number of roots over the complex numbers as you have a degree. In other words, if you have a degree fourth polynomial, you're going to have 4 zeros over the complex numbers. And that's why we have 4 factors here. Each one of these factors represents a 0. And so when you're factored completely over the complex numbers, you can see what all those zeros are going to be. So that's what you're going to be doing in this lesson. You're going to be factoring completely, and you're going to be determining the number of zeros, and you're also going to be using given zeros to write a polynomial. And there are examples and videos of that in the lesson. So that's the big picture.